The world around us is hostile to the Word of God and to biblical values, but we are called to be salt and light, to stand for truth in a decaying culture. We are not called to run from the fire, but be willing to step into the fire. God has placed you at this time in history on purpose and for a purpose. Join us as we get better equipped to address civics and culture from a biblical worldview. Welcome to Into the Fire, powered by Dream City Church. Let's welcome our hosts Alison Furno and Debi Vandenboom.
Today's topic, a Sports Illustrated model's fight against unreasonable beauty standards. Today's special guest is Kim Alexis. Kim, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Yes, we're so excited to have you and really dive into this conversation, but I want you to start off with talk about your career as a model. How did that all start?
I was 17. I was getting ready to go to college, just trying to make extra money. So I went through a modeling school, and this is back in 1978 when it was way before your time, Missy. But it was more of a charm school. And so I was a tomboy growing up, never planned on modeling, didn't study the modeling magazines, had no clue what I was getting myself into. And I was in class one night, and I thought I was getting kicked out. And instead, they asked if I wanted to go to New York to model. And this is because I was in Buffalo at the time. And I said, no, I'm going to be a pharmacist. So I was ready to go to college and be a pharmacist and changed plans and decided to give it a shot. Went to New York City 2 days after I turned 18. And within 4 days, I had my first cover of Italian Bazaar magazine. And then I had a national ad within 3 months. So God immediately had me successful because I would have left. I would have immediately left and gone back to pharmacy. I'd be counting little pills right now.
That's amazing. So and you were in a lot of different magazines. I remember you from, because I am a child of the 70s and 80s, and I remember you from back in the day, and you were on a lot of different soaps. What are some of the
Vogue,
latest?
Glamour, Mademoiselle, Cosmopolitan, Bazaar, and then all the European ones. But sometimes I could be on 8 covers in the same month.
And you were Sports Illustrated?
Yes. Yep.
And then also some of the makeup brands and some of the designers too, right? So what were some of the ones that you
Oh gosh, friends. I grew up with Calvin Klein and Ralph Lauren and Tommy Hilfiger and Perry Ellis at the time. I knew him when he was alive. He was a wonderful man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So what was that like as far as what kind of standards did you see in that industry, maybe some that you disagreed with?
That's a loaded question. So, well, first, what I think's changed over the years is that instead of everyone staying in their lane and staying in the profession that they were trained in, like if it was makeup or if it was photography or if it was writing a script for a TV show, now everybody's doing everything. I'm expected, if I'm doing something for social media, is to write my own script and light it myself and do everything myself. So that's what I've seen change in the industry as far as professionalism, in a way, that everybody's wearing so many hats now. Back when I was working, each person had their own specialty. So, and the other part of your question was
being like what kind of standards did you see in the industry as a model that, because my perspective is coming from, I'm thinking there's a lot of girls that feel the need to look like a model, right? And feel the need to be like one, and all of these different beauty standards that we see. And so I'm wondering, on the inside, what kind of things did you notice, maybe pressures people had or like norms?
Yeah, well, there was a ton of pressure. If you're in New York City, in the fashion capital of the world, and working for the top designers, the top magazines, they obviously had a certain standard. I came from the mindset, because I wasn't planning on modeling, I wasn't desperate to model, and I hadn't grown up dreaming and thinking of it as a young girl. For me, I always had this escape clause, a plan where I could leave, like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to do that, or I'm not putting up with this. Right. So even as far as them putting me in precarious, compromising positions, I'd be like, I'm out of here. So that kept me safe in many ways. The body image thing, women love to, most of the stylists that would dress you were women. I wouldn't have a guy stylist really dressing me, right? So, although it was known to happen. But the women would get their payback kind of by zipping up your dress with a skin in it, and oops, or pinning you, or just doing just things. Like, women can be mean. So you have to, I think what I'm trying to say to young girls is life's not fair, and that you have to get a tough skin at some point and just stay true to yourself of who you are inside, and not let other people's opinions or their actions really upset you. And that took me a while. I mean, I left home at 18 and immediately was on my own in New York. And so it took a while for me to understand who I was, even my own fashion sense, because here I am trying on, $1 million jewels and outfits and designer clothes. And it's like, okay, so what do I wear in my downtime?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of things to trying to figure out of what I liked and what worked and what didn't. And even those healthy boundaries in the business of what I was willing to put up with, what jobs I would take. I had to be my own brand manager even. And this was way before, Debbie, that you and I knew that there was such a thing.
Right.
You didn't really protect your own brand. Your name wasn't a brand. I mean,
Right.
the designer's name might have been a brand, but we never thought of ourselves. I never dreamed that I would be still known 45 years later.
Right.
I started 45 years ago.
That's crazy. And I think too, like if I'm remembering, I don't remember really there being famous supermodels before that. Like it was a new field. So
the term was probably coined when I was maybe 4-6 years into the business. So I started in 78, and it was probably around 84, 85, 86. And I remember someone saying the word supermodel. I said, "What's that?" And they said, "You are, darling." I said, "Really?" I was busy.
Right.
Yeah, I was busy working. And we didn't have feedback. We didn't know what we did in the magazines was affecting other women, because we were in this little bubble working all the time and not out socializing with the regular people that would be reading it, saying, "Oh my gosh, I wait for your magazine and I just try and do my makeup like you," and the things I hear now from social media. But we didn't get that feedback.
Because even I'm trying to think, this is off the cuff, but before that, I mean, it was either actresses or famous people that maybe advertised for some kind of a product that you knew, or they were just models that you never knew who they were. They were just random, like, faces.
It
or
was
bodies.
basically,
you didn't know their identity like you did with the models in the era that you were in.
So when I started, it was just the models, and the models became the names.
Right.
After I left in the 90s, the actresses started wedging in and elbowing their way into our business and took every national makeup ad and skincare and cover. And so we lost that supermodel, because for a while anyways, because the actresses were doing all of the covers.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
And they were doing them, I mean, my covers sometimes would have 2 pieces of hair, and it was really close up. If you look back in the 70s, 80s, those covers were zoomed way in. And as the actresses who they might have been great at acting, but you didn't want to zoom in as much, it would be more of a full body. So that even changed. There were a lot of things that changed in the 90s, I guess.
And how much like airbrushing and that kind of thing went on? Did any of that go on in that era?
So I was in a grocery store in New York City once, and I think I was probably on 8 covers at once in the magazine. So you'd see it at the checkout, right? So I'm kind of looking, and I only looked to say, oh, that's the look they picked, or that's the pose, because I was trying to learn. I didn't sit there and think, oh, how wonderful. It was more just trying to, oh, this is factual. And so a woman comes up to me and she says, "I've been staring at your face all day." And so I kind of thought it was because I was on all these magazine covers, right? And I said, "Oh, okay." And she says, "Yeah, I'm a retoucher." And I'm like, "Oh." So she had to work on my face all day long.
Yeah, so that's a
Popped
thing.
my bubble.
Like, dang. Well, I thought something you said was really interesting about how figuring out who you are, right? And I think the expectations that other people put on you mean a lot when you don't know who you are yet, right?
Right. Or you try them out for size.
Yeah.
So, okay, back in the day, was I a punk rocker? So I would wear like bright green overalls and little caprice shoes, leather dance shoes. Remember those days?
I do.
And yeah, so I would try different things. I didn't color my hair because I wasn't allowed to. If any of you don't know, Allison's got bright red hair.
I do.
Yeah.
So the studio, they wouldn't allow you to
I
color?
wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. Back then, we couldn't have tattoos. We couldn't have piercings in certain places. You weren't really allowed to cut or color your hair or change anything because a client booking you 2-3 months out is paying for a specific look. And
Okay.
you can't change it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So within that space, I think there's something that I want people to like digest here. Like when we're talking about, like you said, trying out for size expectations, right? Like if we don't have a clear opinion of ourselves and really knowing what God says about us, we will accept those things. And you said something really good, which is how people should be. You look at something, an accomplishment you have, and you're not praising yourself, saying, oh, well, I'm just so amazing, right? And that's part of probably how you stayed very level-headed, because a lot of people feed into that and say, oh, well, I must be amazing because I'm doing all of these things, right? But I think if you take praise from people, then you also take criticism from people, right? You can't just take one and say, oh, I accept your opinion of me now, but not later.
Right.
So you either believe what other people say about you, or what they say doesn't matter at all.
Right.
And that's, I think, a key for people to take away from a confidence perspective is if you are continually feeding into what other people say about you, good or bad, then you are always going to be at the mercy of those people and their opinions.
And modeling was very much about rejection because you would get this job and not that one. And you were right for this one, but not that one. Or right for these 10 and not the one you really wanted. And so our careers were kind of molded and shaped, some from the offers that came in, but also how we decided to accept. But words also could very much hurt. And because the business was about your outward appearance, they looked at you like a canvas or a object. They felt that they could verbalize what they thought you looked like or what they wanted you to look like. So you had to the thick skin thing, and then also I had to learn to let words just roll off my back or fall off my back and not internalize. When you internalize words, hurtful words from other people, it's damaging.
Right. Right. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think we see so much of that with, it's such a hard, and now today, I mean, we were talking earlier off camera, but about how there's so many more things available now to be able to change yourself and your appearance, right? I mean, back in the day, right? I mean, it was really even hard to color your own hair. I mean, you couldn't, there were only a couple of options and they smelled horrendous and they were really damaging on your hair. And I mean, you didn't have this whole aisle of like hair dye products that you have now and all of the different, things that you can do to alter the way that you look, whether you're younger or whether you're aging.
And doctors.
And doctors,
We don't have the
right?
doctors.
So not only things that you can do yourself,
Right.
and then doctors you can go to and procedures you can have done and all kinds of things. There's so many things available now that if you do take those things in, it can be really easy to think, oh, well, I should do this or I should do that, and to change how you look so that you feel better about who you are, and which can be a very difficult thing to get out of, I think, when you get into that pattern of believing the press, right?
Believing what other people say. And I struggled with that for a while because I had a lot of people, and I played volleyball, and there were constantly coaches saying, well, you're too skinny, well, you're too this, well, you're too that. And I would take it personal, like, what am I supposed to do? This is what I look like. This is what my body shape is, right?
Right.
And so it's so interesting, kind of what we were talking about earlier, not feeding into anybody's opinion, not doing that, but having a true belief within yourself of what beauty really is. So I want to ask both of you that. What do you think is the essence of what makes a person beautiful? And I have thoughts about that too. But I want to hear your
well,
thoughts.
to me, it's an internal thing, and it's God's light shining out. So he developed all of our personalities different. And when you have children, and you have not yet, but Alice, Debbie has. So you see children, and immediately they start getting these little personalities, and you can't control that. That's who they are, and that's who God designed them to be. So to have that personality come out and shine, and not feel stifled or not feel, criticized or bound in any way to adhere to a certain whatever society, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it also there's a lot of opinions out there, I think, that are just a little personality. You know, they take the personality and then they're going off a little. We can't even get there. Like some people, I don't know. There's so many different things going on right now. So that's a whole other story.
Yes,
I guess.
but that is exactly why we should never get trapped in the idea of comparison. Just like you said, everybody is created different, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we think about it that way, you should not be trying to follow after anybody else or look like or talk like or act like, because nobody can do it like you do it.
Yes.
So I love that.
But I remember when I was young and I remember looking at a mother, and I don't know how old I was, but the mother was made up and ready to go out, like country club ready, like my mother used to be. Country club ready to go out, and you're ready to have the little babysitter, and you've got a small toddler, and they might have just eaten dinner, and they cling on the mom because they want to be picked up. Mm-hmm. My thought of who a wonderful woman and mother is the one that bends down, doesn't care about the clothes, doesn't care about messing up the hair, but loves on the kid.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a really good picture.
So I remember thinking that's what I want to be when I'm older. That's the kind of mom I want to be.
Yeah, and that is from the inside, right? Like not everybody has that spirit about them. So I love that. That is really cool. Debbie, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, very similar to what Kim is saying, but you know, I was thinking Proverbs 31 when you were talking about that, of what is a godly woman and the woman that we're supposed to try to strive to be, but
which is a lot.
It is a lot. But I'm thinking also of when David was being picked to be king, and it's the Bible says that man looks at the outward appearance and God looks at the heart. And there's something that's very attractive about kindness and love and compassion and those things. We're attracted to people. Someone can be really beautiful on the outside and be a horrible person, and you don't want to be around. They're not attractive.
Yeah, the Proverbs, like it's better to be with a leaky roof than a screechy wife or something like that.
No, but it's true though, right? Yeah. I mean, there are some really nasty people out there that are just mean and hateful, and you don't want to be. We're not attracted to being around that person, right? So I think being attractive is more than just what they look like on the outside. I mean, obviously we want to take care of ourselves and not be, you know, look like we just crawled out of a cave somewhere. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that is what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm saying be taking care of ourselves. There's nothing wrong with taking care of ourselves and trying to be, you know, put together and those kind of things. But it's what you're talking about. Are the people more important than what you're wearing or what you are, you know, the makeup or whatever? I mean, would you stop and run to help somebody if you don't have everything, you know, the false eyelashes and the full face of makeup? Do you know what I'm saying? Like exactly. Those kind of things are, where is the priority? Is the priority on the outward appearance or on what you can offer to somebody else? And so I think those kind of things, we're just naturally drawn to people who have those qualities, who show the fruits of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And two, you know, with that, I think when we're talking, it's interesting because this is making me think of, I had a conversation, I was talking to my youngest daughter who's 17. Well, she just turned 18. I have to remember that now. She's 18, not 17. Her birthday was last week. But we were talking about this, and she was saying that she loves, she named a few people like in her circle of her mom's friends, and me, and I was in there, and people who are just their moms, and they're willing to, like, you know, show gray hairs and do all of that stuff. And she said she loves it because it gives her permission, right, to that's okay to do that. And I thought it was so interesting to see that when you're looking at, this is a little off topic, but I think we're gonna head there too at some point. But that the younger generations are looking to us for how we handle those things. Yeah. Not how we handle age, whether it's being young and 20 and thinking, okay, we need to post, you know, half nude pictures at raves, right? Or whether it's being older and being okay with that aging process and not feeling like you still have to look 20 when you're 55, right? So all through that process, it's so it's not so much what we do or how we, you know, because you can get really legalistic in looking at things and saying, oh, well, you're allowed to do this, but you're not allowed to do that. And that's not what I'm talking about, but just about having that what are we projecting? Are we comfortable with who we are, and are we okay with how God made us, and showing younger generations what is important and what's not important, right? That those are the things that are, because we really are, they're watching us. The younger women, younger girls are seeing how we're handling all of those different situations, and they determine what those pressures, right? Of, okay, well, I have to do this, or I can't do that, or, I have to.
So my feedback on social media, because I've claimed I'm not doing fillers and I'm not doing Botox and I'm not going to color my hair anymore, or let the gray grow out. And so I get over and over feedback of, thank you for giving me permission to be myself and to age. If you can do it from being in the limelight, then I feel like I have permission. So it's about taking care of yourself and doing the best you can with what you've got.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so going into what we're talking about with this is, let's talk about health a little bit. And, we've talked about what makes a beautiful person. So what role does health have to do with how you feel and actually how you age?
I think if you don't feel good internally, you're going to be snappy and miserable to other people on the outside.
Yeah.
Health is important, not only for beauty, to have glowing skin and perky eyes, light in your eyes. I mean, some of that comes from God, but some of that comes because of the nutrition God gave us that we're supposed to be eating.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer that he designed our bodies to be utilized in a certain way, and that if we give the body what God uses as food, so he's like, here's your body, here's your food, don't mess it up. Right.
And you get one shot at this.
Yeah. But I also am a big believer that we're either going towards health or away from it. Every single option, everything we put in our mouth, everything we put thought in our brain, all of that is going towards or away from health. So you can have a bad meal, but you can counter it by then having 10 great ones or something. Right. So the body is constantly trying to heal if you give it the tools to do that. And that's how God programmed us.
Right. And I think about it as, when you want something to run efficiently, do you go, oh, well, let me just see what sounds good right now? Or do you say, okay, if I'm going to fill up my car, I'm going to the gas station, I'm going to put what's going to work for my car, right? What's the most effective way to get from point A to point B? And that's how I think about food. It's like, if we're saying, oh, well, what do I feel like doing? We're in the wrong situation. Like, eating is not the time to be like, what do I feel like doing?
I was just thinking about, can you imagine a gas station that had like pink gas and then other ones that had flowered gas, or gas that smelled good? Or
people would probably pay for it.
Right. And they'd probably stop instead of going to the original gas station. And then the cars would all be stopping on the streets like, slug.
Right.
But it's true. I mean, I think about this a lot when it comes to aging. Is the truth of the matter is, we should not be dying from sickness.
Correct.
We really should not be. And it's normal. We all know people, and we have family and grandparents and whatever it is, right? Where we see it, and it's almost like people expect it. And it's like, the question when people die is, what did they die from?
Yes.
It's not old age, which is really what it should be, right? But if we are constantly giving our body toxins, and we say, oh, well, I can just, people my age say, oh, well, I'll just wait till I'm older to take care. Oh, I'll just wait till I'm like 40, 50, whatever. Yeah. I'll get to it eventually. And it's like, oh, well, let's just, you know what I mean? Let's just wait. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's having a different perspective of, this is the vehicle that God gave us to operate and to do what he's asked us to do. So I think it is super important to take care of.
Yeah. When my sons were young, they used to be, oh, there she goes again. She's making a healthy meal, and almost embarrassed with their friends because I was not doing whatever, like Pop-Tarts or fruit roll-ups or whatever it was. And so they're like, Mom. And we didn't have soda in our house. It was sparkling water that they called bubble water. And so, but now they're like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I think the basis for healthy eating for me is, just like you're saying, is having whole foods. So what are actual foods that come from animals or plants, or, something that's not in those aisles in the middle of the grocery store.
Unprocessed. Unmanned touched.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes. Untouched, unprocessed. Yeah. If you can start there by having more fruits, vegetables, chicken, steak, whatever it is, beans, all the things that you can find in the earth, you're going to be doing really well.
Yep.
Yeah, the fewer things that you can't pronounce on that's kind of a good rule of thumb, right? Is whether it's food or whether it's things you put on your body, because a lot of those are just as I've been seeing a naturopath just as I've gotten older, which has been amazing. But and that's true with even just changing like shampoos and soaps and things, laundry detergents, all those things, right?
House cleaners,
right? I mean, it's amazing how much better you feel. Now, obviously, like, you know, there's cost that comes with that. The stuff that's bad is cheaper and it's easier sometimes.
Well, not
and all of those
vinegar
things.
if you want to clean.
Vinegar is amazing, right?
That's
I'm just saying,
cheap.
like, you know, you have a balance, right? We don't want to make anybody think, oh, they have to throw everything that they own out and try to go, but really to start thinking about every single thing that you put in or on your body, the more
or breathe, right? Those icky air fresheners.
Or the scented candles and things like that start to bother me now, and they didn't used to. But just everything has, you know, it's like a cost analysis, right? You look at what's in them and how they are, and okay, how much do I really want this thing? And can I use something else? And
or this might be cheaper now, but in the long run, I'm going to pay a bigger doctor bill 30 years from now. Like, you need to tell your friends.
Yes.
Yeah. You just kind of have to look at all those things and start looking at what's in the things that you're putting on. And it's one of those things that I wish I had done younger. I mean, I've been trying to be pretty clean with all of those things the last few years, and feeling a lot better because of that. And I wish that I had been, I mean, you do what you know, right? You can't undo what you don't know.
Right.
But it really does have an impact on how you feel. And then when you feel good, you look healthier and you're
able to help others
and you're able
and
to
serve
others.
and yes.
Yeah.
So a good rule of thumb for anybody who's listening saying, I wonder if I have toxic products in my house.
Yes.
Would be that if you can smell it for a long, long time,
Yes.
that is probably something toxic. So whether it's what you clean your floors with, the lotion you put on your body, you say, I wear this because it makes me smell good. Well, it's not supposed to make you smell good for that long.
Or that your hair, like, see, people will have hair products and they're like, oh, you have to go get this. It's great for your hair. And I'm like, yeah, but long term. So my big thing, and this is a kind of an overall thing, is not what a product does for you. So our marketing is all about how products make things faster, quicker, lighter, easier, more moisture, whatever it is. It's what the product does to you, to your health.
And it's interesting when I was learning about all this stuff that your skin absorbs everything that you put on it. I did not know that for the longest time.
It's your largest organ.
Right.
Yeah.
So any lotion you put on your skin, that goes into your bloodstream and your body's absorbing those chemicals, right? With chemicals, plastics, whatever it is.
Makeup.
And makeup, same thing.
Perfume.
Yeah,
all of those
perfume.
things.
And knowing that is directly impacting your hormones.
Yeah.
It impacts your ability to have children. We've seen a huge epidemic with that where it's like girls are having a harder time because their hormones are so messed up and it's not always the case, but many cases.
Endocrine
where,
disruptors.
the disruptors that people have in their household products are literally causing stress, acne, mood swings, irritability, depression, anxiety, all of those things. And sometimes we have no idea that it's because we have so many chemicals from not only that, and then you go and eat food every day that's processed in chemicals and full of toxins.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, a good rule, and you can go crazy with it and be, you don't want to be obsessed over that. Like, we don't want to put that out and be like, oh, well, you have to go be afraid of everything you touch.
Right.
Now,
But it's good to just kind of start and be
take
aware.
stock,
And someone will say to me, oh, well, where do I start? There's so much that you've told me.
start reading labels.
But I start with laundry detergent because we wash all of our clothes and then we sleep on our sheets. So 24 hours a day, we have our skin exposed to whatever we used in our laundry.
Yeah.
Right. It's true.
Food is another big one.
Yes.
Yeah, food. And just start, so just start reading labels and looking at things and taking stock of how you feel, right? If you don't feel well and you'd like to feel better, feel younger, have start looking at those things first.
There's cause and effect. And some things you know right away. You'll have a bite of something and it's like, oh, I don't feel good from that at all.
Right.
Or a drink or whatever it is. I mean, there's certain things that you just learn that don't work for you. Yeah.
Right. And so often I have this on a couple of different points that we're asking the wrong questions, right? So when it comes to health and nutrition, so often the question that we ask is, well, I'm just going to ask my doctor what I should do because I don't feel good. Right. And it's not, I mean, doctors are amazing. We love doctors. We love what they can do. But we also have to say, okay, what can I control myself? What can I research myself? What can I learn that might be able to help me with this problem and not just be helpless in that situation? Right. Of course, there's times we need them, but there's also times where we just give up any type of knowledge that we could have because we're like, well, I'm just not sure. So I'm going to let somebody else deal with this. And kind of to your point earlier, it's like, that doctor bill, and I say this is going to be way more expensive than my apples I'm having every week. So, so going back
an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah, so
an unpesticide apple, an organic apple,
a non-GMO.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot to pay
I wonder
attention
what new
to.
phrases we're going to hear 10 years down the road. Like now we're starting to discover the plastics and things and don't microwave your popcorn. And we didn't know that 10 years ago.
No.
So 10 years from now, what the heck are we going to be? Well, I didn't know that.
And like I didn't know what any of those things were 5 years ago, right? And
exactly.
you can get really obsessive about it, but just start one thing at a time.
Yes,
and
one
pray
thing at a time.
and pray too. I mean, I always feel like this is when I started wanting to feel better. Just tired and not feeling well. It was like, okay, I just started praying, God, just help me to figure out what to do, what to change. And you just change one thing at a time and be aware. And so with all of this too, I think that, again, I just want to reiterate this because women especially can get really, really paralyzed with, what other people think.
Enough.
Not
Also,
doing enough.
They feel they're not good enough. We for some reason, we've got this thought in our mind. So to just do your best, take things slow, learn slowly. There's so many great podcasts and different reels and things that you can, for people you can follow.
Right. Yeah. And to feel like too, whether you're young or whether you're aging, that okay, if you want to color your hair for fun, like Alison with her red hair, and go for it, do those things, but just be smart too about doing and not do things that you feel like you have to do. Right. That if you're feeling like, oh, you have to, start getting Botox when you're 25 or whatever because you feel pressured and you don't feel like you're good enough,
right? Or
you feel like you're not going to be pretty enough,
or you want to look like someone else,
or you want to look like someone else. Those are things that are not healthy, right? That it's like you doing things for the wrong reasons, that we need to just try to be as healthy and as close to the original God made us, the way that he designed us perfectly, right? And so we can it's okay to get older, it's okay to be young, it's okay to look different from someone else. Those things are okay, and just to be you and not feel like you have to be somebody else. And again, we can't get rid of everything, but just doing things for the right reasons. Sometimes it's fun. I used to do all I always tell my kids I would get a blue streak in my hair if I wanted. I would, there's things that are fun, right? And so those things are okay if they're done with the right heart and the right attitude, and not because you feel less and you feel like you have to do them because you're not good enough.
Yeah, the striving thing is bad. Yeah.
Right. Just like you guys are both saying, when it comes from a place of insecurity,
right?
I think so often we're asking the wrong questions. Instead of asking, what do I think about myself?
Or what does God think about me?
Exactly. That's what does God think about me, right? So how do I change the question that I'm asking? Because if you say, why am I not good enough, right? You're always going to have those negative feedback loops going over in your head. So it's changing the questions and saying, what does God say about me? What do you see in me, God? How do you see me? And what is it that you want me to help my community with? So my last question for you here is, what advice would you give to women who feel that pressure to fit in?
Well, we kind of circled around a little bit. You've just got to be yourself. So I look at other people and then I internalize. So why am I attracted to that? Or why do I not feel good enough with this person? So I'm constantly analyzing myself and asking questions. And I'm with this person and I see their beautiful dress. Does that mean I need to go get that dress, or am I fine? And do I look fine myself? This weird stuff goes through your head.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of being confident in you and just knowing that you're doing your best is super important in so many different areas. And I had a girlfriend once. We would go to hockey early in the morning. She was a hockey mom with me. Sometimes we'd be up at 4 a.m. racing our kids to go get to a hockey rink. And one time she looked down, she's like, Kim, I have 2 different shoes on. I said, walk around like you're confident and like you don't even. And so she did. And she's like, wow, that worked. And I said, see, you just have to I planned it that way.
Yeah. I have so done that.
See?
I have. I've also, when I had my kids were little, I realized halfway through the day that my shirt was inside out.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you know
Why
what?
did no woman tell you that we all have to stick together? I'm constantly stuffing labels in or saying, your price tag's on.
It was one of those things that you couldn't really tell because of the way that it was designed. Like, it wasn't obvious, but it was just so funny. I'm like, yep, this is just, you know,
That's how it goes.
being real.
Well, that's a mom. I'm sorry. You dress in the dark and you do everything for your kids, and that's just the way it is. And you're happy.
Right.
It's a good thing.
You enjoy that
yes.
life. Yeah.
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 And miss it when it's gone.
No, you do.
Well, I love it. That's awesome. That's the best way to end this episode. Thank you, Kim, so much for coming on, and thank you for listening to Into the Fire, powered by Dream City Church.
You can listen to this podcast on Apple and Spotify and follow us on social media. Find all the info on the show notes. To learn more about Dream City Church, visit our website at dreamcitychurch.us. Thanks for listening.